This year I reviewed two very interesting motorcycles, the famous Tenere 700 and the not so famous underdog, the AJP PR7. For your convenience, both reviews will be up here and also on the description. Well, to my surprise, a lot of people asked how I compare these two motorcycles and which one I would recommend. And initially, I told them that each rider needs a different motorcycle and that comparing these two, loving analogies, it's like comparing a plane to an helicopter. But this question kind of got me thinking. Hello adventurers, my name is Diogo Guerra and this is OFFroad-OFFcourse. When I began writing the script for this Tenere 700 versus PR7 video, I realized that what I was actually doing was writing a script for an adventure motorcycle versus dual sport motorcycle video, which is a much broader and much more useful topic that will be as useful today as it will be in 100 years. So, while I will still use the T7 and the PR7 as my guinea pigs for this video, let's all keep in mind that I'm actually talking about all similar motorcycles. So let's go. What makes adventure and dual sport bikes so different? Although there is no official definition of what an adventure and a dual sport bike is, there are some guidelines. Adventure motorcycles are usually meant for on-road traveling, but with a high degree of off-road capacity. Let's say, for the sake of convenience, that they are about 70% on-road and 30% off-road oriented. By necessity, this usually makes them a little bit bigger, more comfortable with more powerful twin or three-cylinder engines, and this is where we find the Tenere 700. On the other hand, dual sports are basically big dirt bikes. And this means that they are meant for off-road, but they are built in a way that they can withstand on-road use if they have to. So they are about 70% off-road and 30% on-road oriented. So, by necessity, these bikes are usually lighter, they have a big ground clearance, they have tall suspensions, and they have smaller engines, usually single-cylinder engines. These ones are better for low and medium revs, not so much at highway speeds. And this is where we find the AJP PR7, for instance. In other words, what makes these two types of bike different, it's their concept. They are meant to be better in different things. But despite that, one could argue that there are more similarities than differences between them. Adventure and dual sport motorcycles are similar because they can be used in similar ways. It's not uncommon to find a group of friends where half of them has small dual sports and the other half has big adventure bikes. But how does this work if I just told you that ones are better for the road, the others are better for the off-road? Let's say you and I are going on a trip, and I am taking the AJP PR7 and you are taking the Tenere 700. We want to go from Lisbon to Coimbra, that's 200 kilometers on the road, and then we want to take a 200 kilometer track to Guarda. Regardless the chosen average speed, the first half of the trip would definitely feel more comfortable, more pleasant, faster and even safer to you than it would to me. For me, on the PR7, these 200 kilometers on the highway would definitely feel boring and less comfortable. But nevertheless, the bike would get me through them in less than 2 hours with a fair degree of dignity. However, once we reach Coimbra and the off-road starts, the lightweight PR7 with its tall suspensions would make everything feel easier. And even if I'm not the most experienced rider, I would probably feel safe and in control no matter what the mountains had in store for us. You, on the other hand, would probably feel a bit hostage of the environment. On a big adventure bike like that, you would have a lot of fun while the trails are easy. But if things got gnarly, if we found a lot of mud or let's say a steep hill with loose rocks, then you would have to use all your skill and maybe all your energy to overcome those obstacles. A skilled rider can get away using an adventure bike because his comfort zone is big, and he only struggles from time to time when things get really rough. On the flip side, an inexperienced rider has no comfort zone whatsoever, so things only get from bad to worse the deeper he goes into the jungle. So what can we conclude? We conclude that there are no good or bad motorcycles, but definitely there are good and bad choices. A rider needs to know himself, needs to know his skills, needs to know his friends and what they like to do, needs to know what his plans are and his expectations for the future, in order to be able to choose a motorcycle that fits his own needs. If, like me, what you really enjoy doing is off-road, and you often ride alone with no one else to help, and you often explore uncharted tracks where you don't know where they may lead you, and if you also know that you are not riding to Magadan anytime soon, then maybe what you need is a smaller dual sport, or at least until you get some more experience under your belt. If, on the other hand, you enjoy riding on the road and cover long distances, if often you ride with a pillion, and if your off-road expectations are a bit more humble, maybe you just want to explore some unpaved countryside roads from time to time, then perhaps the adventure bike is what you need. Either way, what everyone really needs is skill and knowledge, because adventure is 80% about the rider, 20% about the bike. Or, just like my YouTuber friend Red Raven likes to say, it's the Indian, not the arrow. So next time you go on Instagram and you find some video of a professional rider doing some unbelievable stunts on a big bike, instead of thinking how good that motorcycle must be, think instead what can you do in order to learn similar skills. And if you live in Portugal or if you intend to visit the country, then you can get this sort of training from my partners BN ADV. And if you use my code, OFFcourse, then you get 10% discount, which is a rare win-win-win situation. And now I'm done. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, as usual, please like, subscribe, hit the thingy and share. Share it with your friends, because I think a lot of people need to understand this thing about adventure bikes and dual sports. See you next week and happy rides!